Welcome to Lady Business, the podcast where we make the mess feel normal. As always, in this episode, we're diving into another inspiring conversation with our guest who is carving their own path. Each episode brings you insight and perspectives from our guests as they share their journey, struggles, and triumphs that have brought them to today. Whether you're building your own business or supporting those who are, this episode is packed with insights you won't want to miss. Lady Business is all about the raw, real stories behind the hustle. We're here to get unfiltered about what it takes to grow, succeed, and sometimes stumble. So, let's jump right in.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Lady Business. Today, I'm so excited to have our guest with us, and we've worked together through programming that Doyen does, but also has come so far with her company. So I'm going to turn over to Erin to talk a little bit more and tell us all about who you are and what you do.
Hey everyone, it's so nice to meet you all. My name is Erin Dawicki. I am the CEO of LymeAlert. But prior to LymeAlert, I was a pediatric orthopedic physician assistant for the past 17 years. So I was actually one of the first 3 PAs employed at Boston Children's Hospital in the Department of Orthopedics. And I didn't know at that early stage of my life that I was entrepreneurial, but creating a role is entrepreneurial. You're figuring it out as you go and you're wearing a lot of hats. But after 17 years of practicing in the US healthcare system, I got super frustrated. And I thought we can do better than what we're doing. So I decided to go back to school at the age of 40 with 2 children and a mortgage and quit my job and go to school and do the MIT Sloan Fellows MBA program. And my thesis in doing that was how can we leverage emerging technology to build a better healthcare system that's affordable and accessible for everybody? So during that program, I met wonderful people, all with very similar goals and motivations. And I was in a class on healthcare entrepreneurship, which was not a route I had thought about using to help change healthcare, and came up with the idea for LymeAlert because my patients call me all the time saying, "Hey, I found a tick on me or my child. What do I do with it?" And a lot of times they're calling me because they can't afford to come in and get a visit, or they don't have access. They only have one vehicle for the household and somebody's working. So I said, wouldn't it be cool if you could just test the tick at home, know if it carries disease or not, and then they know when they need to actually seek healthcare, so you're not wasting money or time. And on the provider side, we know when to appropriately prescribe antibiotics because antibiotic resistance is a huge and growing threat. And a lot of healthcare providers are getting more weary about prescribing antibiotics for exposure. So I thought, wow, this is cool. This solves problems on both sides of this equation. And at MIT, when you say cool idea out loud, you get people who jump in and say, we can figure that out. Let's build that. And that's how LymeAlert was born.
It's so cool. I think, yeah, and just the whole scheme or what's the word I'm looking for? Spectrum of what Lyme disease looks like for everybody. And, like it's not typical, the bullseye that they tell you to look at. I think you're the one who told me that only shows up in what, like 20%?
Yeah, it's less than a third of people get a bullseye. And there's 300 documented symptoms associated with Lyme disease. So they literally call it the great pretender because, if you wait for symptoms, it could look like anything.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And I think, again, we're seeing much more. We're seeing such an intake or uptick.
Yeah, no, the jokes won't stop with ticks.
Yeah, right?
You just gotta lean in.
I said it and I was like, oh God. I remember being a kid and we were conscious of ticks, but the majority of the ticks that we were seeing were not the deer ticks that potentially carry Lyme.
Right.
They were wood ticks. And now even here in Wisconsin, we're seeing a way longer season of ticks. People they're like, just mow your yard and that'll keep the ticks out. Nope. Like all the things they told us that we should be doing to be preventive for it, we're actually finding out because of climate change and other scenarios. It's not working anymore.
No. And when I studied medicine, we were told the tick had to be on for at least 72 hours. And if it was on for less than that, you didn't have to worry. And now the CDC says, well, it's at least 36 hours. But there's been some lab studies that are showing that the transmission of Lyme disease can happen in perhaps as low as 24. And that's only been in a lab-based study. So, obviously they need to validate that in other ways. But what it says to me is the science isn't settled. And at least for me, when I've had a tick on me, I have not set a stopwatch. I have no idea when they started feeding. So I
Right.
just think we all need to be mindful of that and just advocate that if you do have a tick that's been feeding on you, to push for antibiotics.
Yeah. Awesome. So I loved, your story talking about entrepreneurship wasn't really what you ever thought your career
No, no
would.
interest.
Yeah, I think you wrote on your intake form, you wrote down like, I was not wanting this. It was way too risky.
Yep. Yep. I'm like, no, I have children. I just paid off my student loans from med school. Why would I do this?
And having spent 14 years working with entrepreneurs, that's what we all say. Of it's when that lightning moment strikes of like, yep, I'm the right person to do this, that we actually see change
Hmm.
or momentum grow versus when we try to force entrepreneurship. And so, yeah, what did that, I mean, that's an identity shift as well.
Huge. Yeah, huge.
Can you
So
share that?
one of the benefits of the Sloan Fellows program at MIT, so it's a mid-career executive level MBA. So 114 14 of us from 41 different countries come together or work and study together for a year. And they actually give you an executive coach. And so I had two issues coming into MIT. Number one, that I did not come from a traditional background. So, my parents didn't go to big universities. My dad worked multiple blue collar jobs to get us by. And so I never had really had a role model for what going to an elite level university looked like, or maybe even the opportunities that you could take advantage of by doing that. And there are a decent amount of my classmates who come from interesting backgrounds as well. So same deal. So they actually assign you an executive coach at the beginning of the year who works with you, and you set up goals. And for me, one of them was, how do I make this identity shift where I say, you know what, I am of a caliber. MIT accepted me for a reason. I have to believe that as well. Because I will tell you, when I opened up that acceptance letter, I was like, ooh, I'm gonna get another one next week saying, oh, just kidding. There was a typo. We put the wrong person. So that sense of imposter syndrome was really, really overwhelming for me entering into MIT. And it wasn't through like until I got through my first semester and I had really good grades and I had people seeking me out for help and advice on things. I was like, oh, maybe I am supposed to be here. So that was the beginning of my identity shift of getting the confidence to be, no, I do belong in this top echelon of people who are working on really cool world-changing things, and I can do this. So then there was the second part of the identity shift, which was transitioning out of the I need to look for a job and I want to look for a job in healthcare policy, perhaps at the government level or consulting, into, oh, I might be the CEO of a company and I'm making that company on my own. So MIT has a session called IAP, which is the winter session, and it's meant for you to explore and experiment in different things. So I did a MIT Martin Trust Center for Entrepreneurship program called Start MIT, where you basically spend 6 weeks being a full-time entrepreneur and trying it on for size and having guest speakers who have formed really successful companies come in and talk about their journey and work on a project. So myself and three other people worked on LymeAlert over the winter. We did more primary market research. And the more data points we got, the more I was like, wow, we are solving a really big unfilled need in the community, not just for people, but in the veterinary community as well. And as I realized the enormity of the problem and how many people we could potentially impact, it actually began to feel more of a moral obligation that, shoot, we figured out how to do this in the lab. I was getting a growing sense of obligation that now we need to get this out into the world where it can actually do some good.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, there's so much there. Again, that identity shift, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not, I go to my first networking event and I feel comfortable even saying,
Hmm.
hi, I'm founder or I'm an entrepreneur. Um, I use the analogy, you've probably heard me say this a million times, of like, it's like when you go to the gym and you have leg day and you're like, "Ugh, I hate this."
Hmm.
Or you have leg day, the more it's like, oh, leg day is not that bad. I
Yep.
actually enjoy leg day. It's working those muscles that you're not ever been trained how to properly
Right.
work, or given opportunity to even work. and going through that. You mentioned, building that team and how critical that is to help take it to the next level. When you were building your team, like what were you looking for in partners?
Well, the first part was I didn't know that I was building the team when it was being built. So we were part of a class, and initially there was a group of four of us, and two of us from that original team are still working together. But we did another class called Introduction to Entrepreneurship. It's kind of the flagship entrepreneurship class at MIT. It's run by a gentleman called Bill Aulet, and he wrote a book called Discipline Entrepreneurship, which I highly recommend. And that's an intense class. So it brings you through the entire company formation, including team building, over the course of a semester. And I worked with one of my classmates who we could not be more different in the vast majority of ways. She comes from the Singapore police force. She does data analytics and operations. So she did COVID prediction for the country of Singapore to figure out where they needed to do quarantine operations. That way they didn't have to quarantine the whole country. They could do it more on a neighborhood level. And I come from healthcare. And we partnered up for this class and we realized that we have such complementary but different work styles. Um, and she realized that she could apply a lot of what she had done during COVID to doing our prediction modeling for Lyme disease. So we partnered up during that class, just realizing that we like each other as human beings. We're both mission driven. We want to make impact on the world. That's why we joined the program. And we have different skill sets. So I like to refer to our team as the blob. We just kind of accumulated people as we made our way through MIT and realized we liked people and they had cool skills that we didn't have and literally proposed to them, like, please join our team.
I love that. And you also, during speaking about identity, talked a little bit about working not just with LymeAlert as supporting humans, but supporting veterinary care as well. And I guess, like when you had first told me that, I was like, oh, I didn't even think about our pets, even though we
Right.
do put flea and tick
Yep.
stuff on our pets. Yeah. So where did that come from?
Yeah, so when we were doing the primary market research, and MIT made us do a lot of primary market research because MIT loves data points, and the more data points you have that you can plot, the better. So we started doing primary market research, and people started talking about how often they pull ticks off of their dogs, and that they would want the option. So then we started talking to some of the veterinarians in our community and veterinary companies, and we realized that the amount of people who actually use flea and tick preventative all year round and are compliant with the scheduling and the timing is less than 40%
Wow.
nationally. And even in New England, where, awareness is high about the risks of tick diseases, it's still pretty low. And people still think that, oh, in the winter, I don't need to use it. But unfortunately, if the weather is over 34 degrees, ticks are out feeding. And we're
Mhm.
not getting so many of those below 34 degrees for long enough to actually kill off tick populations at this point. So it really needs to be a year-round thing. And the most common route that people get Lyme disease is actually from their pets. So you're snuggling with your dog, or your dog sleeps at the foot of your bed, and the tick jumps from the dog to the human. So we also realized that by addressing it in the animal world, that we're actually helping in human health as well.
Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. The carrier. Um, I lost my question.
It happens.
I was just like sitting and listening.
It-
Well, let's kind of keep moving into, a lot of times when I talk to entrepreneurs, we use the reference of like it's like Seinfeld. Being an entrepreneur is like a Seinfeld episode. You just can't make this shit up.
Seriously, seriously.
Do you have I just can't make this stuff up moment that you
So
feel
many,
comfortable sharing?
so many. I mean, I would say the most recent one is I get a lot of text messages from people like in my community who will say, "Hey, I just drove by your house and I put a Ziploc bag with ticks in your mailbox." I'm like, thanks. So I literally have a Tupperware in my freezer next to the dinosaur-shaped chicken nuggets for my kids, filled with frozen dead ticks that people have dropped off of my mailbox. And I'm like, my life is really weird right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and as
Well,
someone
and
who has told people like, hey, you can mail Erin ticks.
yeah, totally. No, I'm grateful for ticks. We are in the next phase of our production where we are testing the ticks against our lab-based tests. So yeah, I will take all the ticks.
Do you see, like right now you're testing for Lyme, do you see like a iteration of the test kits that are testing for other things,
Yeah.
other tick-bound diseases in the
hmm
future?
In fact, we're already working on the research for that.
Mhm.
I think it's mandatory, right? So 10% estimated ticks are co-infected with more than one bacteria. So Lyme disease, anaplasmosis, babesiosis, ehrlichiosis, there's a whole bunch. And there's a bunch of pathogens that are currently overseas that will likely make their way over the United States at some point. So, one of my stress points on LymeAlert is that what if the tick doesn't have Lyme disease, but it has something else? And so we're trying to build our app. So we have a companion app with it. So we're trying to build that intentionally so that whether or not people keep track of their symptoms or there's an LLM that can guide you. So if you are having muscle aches and fatigue and your tested negative for Lyme, that this can help you with decision making. Be like, yeah, we know it tested negative for Lyme, but there are these other things. You've reported these symptoms. You should go seek health care. So trying to help with the whole decision-making process of that, knowing that we don't even know all the co-infections, potential co-infections out there. So I do worry about that because I don't want somebody to falsely believe because the tick doesn't have Lyme, it can't have anything. And our people with Lyme disease were gaslit by the medical community for years. People were told it's all in your head, this doesn't exist, it's not here, all those things. So I don't want to contribute to that in any way. I really want to help us be an advocate for people to get the care that they need when they need it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that work because I think that so many of us have stories like that, not just with Lyme, but just women in general
Mm-hmm.
with our
Yep.
healthcare providers of like, well, they told me nothing's wrong.
Right,
Well,
exactly.
when you're like, no, I just wake up every morning not feeling great. Oh, that's called being a woman.
Right, exactly. Like, oh, well, maybe it's that time of the month. Like,
Right.
you
No,
cannot blame that. Or maybe you need to lose 10 pounds. Like,
yeah.
really? Oh, that one goes right up.
Or they're just like, well, what are you doing? Does it help? Okay, great. Just keep doing that.
Yeah.
I went through
Like,
that.
can we figure out the root cause of what's going on before we just throw stuff against the wall and see what
Right.
sticks?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, no, and a lot of I think it's changing, but generationally there used to be a lot more pride where providers, physicians, NPs, PAs, whoever, didn't want to admit when they didn't know something,
Right.
so they try and say like, we'll try this and I'm sure that'll work without really knowing, and that's one thing I've always kind of taken pride on. Like, I have no problem telling a patient, I don't know,
Right.
but I know somewhere out there has seen somebody like you. We just need to find that right person.
Yeah.
And that can be frustrating for patients. Sometimes it's going to take multiple visits and meeting multiple people. And that is where social media and crowdsourcing and talking to more people about what you're experiencing can help. Because somebody could be like, oh, you know what? I heard of somebody who had something like this. You should check this out.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you the question that everybody is asking right now. Is AI
Oh,
becoming something that is developing or becoming more in your face within your company or just the research that you're doing?
yeah. So I think from a seeking investment standpoint, everybody wants to see some AI involved. We were very adamant from the beginning that our minimum viable product, which is just the tick testing, does not need AI attached to it. We want this thing super cheap, super accessible, send it to third world countries where tick diseases, and make it so that you don't have to think twice about getting it. If you need a Lyme alert, you can get it.
Mhm.
However, we did realize the power of crowdsourcing positive and negative results and figuring out which tick species are where and using AI so that we can predict where different tick species in their diseases are going to spread next. Because then we can share that data with public health agencies, epidemiologists, researchers. Why do some ticks carry and transmit disease and others don't? Like, we don't really know that. But if people are tracking their, if you use your Lyme Alert and then you scan the results, we can collect the GIS location. Like, where were your test results found? What was the climate and humidity data of the day that you found it? And use all of that information to help inform future research. So
Yeah.
I think there is benefit to it. Um, but when you look at AI, it's only trained on what's available, right? So when we talk about maybe there's a chatbot that helps with people and their symptoms, you got to put up guardrails. You got to say, okay, you can only train on this data right here. You can't go out. So you have to create these rules because AI gets biased over time. And if you're training just on what's available on the internet is a cesspool of sexism, misogyny, anti-woman, gaslighting, all of it. And all of that gets built into your model. So I think choosing what your sources are going to be, only letting it train on that, and then re-auditing your data at least every 3 months to see what the output is going to be necessary. And I think more companies are going to have to be transparent. Like, this is what we use for training data. This is what we use for auditing. Otherwise, yeah, you got to expect garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that more. And I think, like the public is wanting more and more of that too.
Mm-hmm.
We're already getting overwhelmed with AI slush
Mm-hmm.
where and trying to figure out, like, is it AI or is this real? But then like I feel like we could do whole courses on just figuring out, is this 30-second reel I watched AI generated or real?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But then also, yeah, it's 100% of putting those parameters around it because we're also so worried about our personal safety and security. What
Mm-hmm.
information, what information is going out and how
Right.
is it going out? How is it potentially going to be for sale?
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the 23andMe um,
Yep.
exchange that's going on right now and sale that's going on with that of people wondering, what are you doing with my genetics?
Totally. Yeah. I mean that is like the code to the human body. And I
Right.
mean, frankly, one of the biggest worries around the MIT campus when Musk went in with Doge and started bringing in external hard drives. So when you're plugging into national level databases, I mean, shoot, that's an AI creator's dream is to have that much access to everybody's data in the United States because you can build AI so fast and so powerful. And what is to prevent that? Our personal data from being monetized. I think that's a big worry.
Yeah, like I'm all for the faster advancement to be able to protect people and protect their lives.
Mm-hmm.
When does it become problematic based on
Mm-hmm.
information, which is way
Yep.
too easy? There's a ton of documentaries on every single platform you can
Yep.
watch about that as well. A word we like to use in Doyen is terror thrilling. So something that's terrifying and thrilling.
Yeah.
Like when I hear the word terror thrilling, I think of when you're on the roller coaster on the first peak of the first hill and you're
Yep.
looking over and you're like, whoosh, here we
Yeah.
go. Of like, I'm scared. Am I gonna make it through this? But also like, oh my God, that was such a rush and I want to do it again.
Yep. Totally.
You're also in a fundraising round.
Yeah.
They're thrilling in your life right now.
Well, that's been interesting because, and you and I have talked about this a little bit in the past. I come from a really male-dominated profession of orthopedic surgery. And we were told before the fundraising started, like, look, nationally, 1.8% of venture money goes to female founders. And we are an all-female team. We're three female co-founders. And there's tends to be some like, yeah, yeah, whatever, it won't happen to me, right? And then you get into this, and some of the questions we've been asked, like, well, who's going to watch the kids, and like, what if you need to travel, and like, do you have the male co-founders this? Because I'm guessing not. Or my favorite one was, well, why would three female scientists from MIT even stick together to work on this? Like, A, what does that even mean?
Yeah.
And B, you did not ask the other four all male teams who are on this show tonight that question at all. So what the hell? Um, So yeah, it's real. It's real. The sexism thing is real. And then in Massachusetts, and this is kind of horrifying to me because we pride ourselves on being a fairly progressive state, but that statistic, that 1.8% goes down to 0.6% of funding in the state of Massachusetts from venture firms goes to female founded teams. So that
This
is
blows my
wild.
mind
It is
considering
wild.
like Boston is top of list as to where VC money's going.
Yeah, no, and particularly in healthcare. And so, we really thought like, hey, we are backed by MIT. We're backed by this powerhouse board of advisors. I mean, we have MIT professor emeritus Charlie Cooney, who is like famous in the biotech world, on our board, who literally was like, I'm trying to step back from things, but I really think this has something and I want to help you guys out. So we thought with all these indicators, it would be like no brainer. Like we have the science, we have the IP, we own 100% of our own IP, which is like unheard of coming out of a major university. We've done all these things, but the questions we get are completely inane and not related to the business at all. So that led to, I really had to like have this moment where I just kind of stepped back for a week or so, and I was like, what I'm doing is not working, these traditional venture pitches. And so I started getting involved in more of the advocacy and the awareness of Lyme disease because to me, going back to the core mission of why we're doing this, which is improving access to healthcare, is really recentering for me. And as I did that, I actually met more people in the Lyme disease community who were like, oh my God, how can we help? How can we support? And that has really been a much more validating way of fundraising. We've gotten angel investors. We have an open SPV, Friends and Family round right now that is what I think we're the most successful one on that platform that they've ever had so far. So that's open until July 3rd. So we can post that somewhere maybe.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's been really, really fun actually, because the people who are investing in us are personally connected to this. They have a personal story about why this is important or how it would have changed their lives had they had access to it sooner. And that to me brings it all back to the point of why we're doing this, and it's for people and it's to improve healthcare access. So
I'm sorry. I know it's like the general, I'm sorry that you've had to go through this that
yeah.
we shouldn't have to say anymore, but like I'm always floored when we have to continue to have these conversations,
Mm-hmm.
and these gender biases that we see and how, and like people are like, oh, I mean, I get gaslit all the time about it when I bring it up, and I'm like, no, there's actual data. There's actual studies that have happened.
Mm-hmm.
We've had men and women stand in front of the same panel, deliver
Yeah.
the exact same pitch,
Mm-hmm.
and the questions are completely different to the
Yes.
woman.
Yep. Risk
And the
versus
man
opportunity.
is much more likely to get the yes just because.
Yep.
And I'm like, I'm not making this up.
No, no. And there was so the American Academy of PAs did a study on just wage difference.
Yeah.
And I got in a fight with a couple friends of mine who were like, it doesn't exist. That's something from the 70s. I'm like, okay, here's a study that
Yeah.
shows that physician assistants coming out of programs, so same level of zero experience in healthcare, this is their first job as a physician assistant, going into the same specialty, the women are offered on average $10,000 less on their initial contract out of school. So you can't tell me that that's because they took time off of work, they had children, all these, typical arguments, because it's literally the first contract after graduation coming out of school. So the bar is literally supposed to be even, everyone's supposed to be on the same starting line. But then that disparity in salary grows over time because even just at a 3% raise, that's over the course of a career, that's over $1 million difference in expected income.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, when you look at the stats, we were peaking as far as working towards making gender parity within income, within, you know, um, well, we were nowhere near it, but we were making, going in the right
We
direction
were,
with
yes.
investment dollars. I think the project in like 2018, I was part of a few committees in the 20 teens that were working towards closing the gender gap. And I remember in like 2018, the projected year for gender parity in the wage gap was 2069. And
Hmm.
what we've seen post pandemic is it's going backwards.
Yeah.
Like you talked about 1.8% of VC funding. The peak, which was in 2018, was 2.3. So
Yeah. Yep.
like we're sliding backwards. We're seeing, it takes longer to get to that equal pay day every
Hmm.
year for women. And then the disparity between, white women and other women and able-bodied
Yep.
women and women with disabilities, it's growing
Yep.
considerably within the
Yeah.
last few years. And so I think, again, like anytime someone says don't bring up the gender thing, it's like, no, it needs to be talked
It
about.
does. It does. And this is, 51% of the US population is female. So this affects the majority of our country.
And where there's more women in the workforce, there's, like all these other things. I'm on my soapbox right now. I know.
Totally. Get on it, girl.
But like again, these are conversations that still need to be pushed forward in 2025 and not silenced. And it's just so frustrating. And it's especially frustrating when we have other women who say, well, I don't think it's because of me being a
Hmm.
woman, or well, maybe it's not, but also like it might factor in there.
It might, and it may or may not. But I think, and when we're talking about to our male allies too,
Yeah.
I think a lot of the pushback from them is, because it makes them feel bad, and it's uncomfortable because they have women in their lives who they care about and who they think very highly of. So they see it as almost a threat to who they are as a person. So I also think that, we need to be strategic when we're engaging our allies in that. No, we're not saying this is your fault. This is just built into a system, and we just need to, the more awareness and visibility we bring to it, then the easier it is to change it so it's not permeating through generations.
Continuing. Yeah. 100%. Oh, Erin, I love talking with you.
I love this. This is super fun.
Okay, so I know you're having right now, as we're recording, you're having your friend's family
Hmm.
round going. This will probably be after, this is probably gonna be aired after
Ah, that's right.
the
Yeah.
round is closed. But what are other ways people can engage or stay connected with Lime Alert?
Yeah, so you can pre-purchase kits on our website, which is super exciting because number one, it shows investors that people are searching for a product like ours, and when they find it, that they will buy it. So that is also a way of getting first in line to get one of these test kits, and for helping us show investors that people are interested and actually want to see this come to market. Definitely follow us on all the socials. So we're on TikTok, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram, LinkedIn. Facebook, we have a Facebook community group. And actually, our Facebook community group is quite nice because people share articles and knowledge from their area. So it's a nice information sharing area. Um, yeah, and just community building, which to me, as you probably gathered, is super important.
Yeah, yes, awesome. Well, thank you for doing all that you do. And thank you
Thank
for
you for
being,
having me. And thank you for supporting me through the Doyen group because I think I told you getting together with that group of women was such a highlight for me and such an unexpected treat.
it doesn't happen very often when just women get together, women entrepreneurs get together and be real and support each other. So yeah.
Well, and I still think back to our first phone call when you're like, so what made you apply to a accelerator in Wisconsin? I'm like, I did. And it ended up being such a joy. I'm so glad that we had that conversation and did it.
Yeah. No, I'm so glad. I'm so glad that you're part of it. Your expertise that you brought to your cohort, I think is very valuable, and you were in a very different lane than
Hmm.
than everybody else in your cohort as far as what industry you're working in and also what your projections of your
Yeah.
company are going to be. So just the knowledge and insight that you gave to all of them also helped them think bigger.
Yes.
And I
Yep.
still hear that from them because they'll reach out to me and be like, I'm doing it, Heather. I'm making it happen. And it's all because of other people in our cohort.
I
So,
love that. I love that
yeah.
so much.
Yeah. So, again, thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being you just in general because we need more Erins in the world. For all of you listening, please make sure to check out the descriptions in the video wherever it is around here. And so that you can we will have the links to how to follow LymeAlert and stay connected with them, as well as more information about what is going on with Lady Business. So thanks again for joining us today, and take care of yourselves and take care of each other, and we'll talk more soon.
Doyen Lady Business Podcast is a production of Doyen Group, Inc. This show is recorded, produced, and edited by Doyen Group team members. I am your host, Heather Wentler. If you want to listen to all past Lady Business episodes, please head on over to doyengroup.org and click to visit our Learning Lab to see past season episodes and learn more about past guests. If you love what you're hearing, make sure to click the subscribe or follow buttons wherever you're listening to Lady Business, and share with others who you think would enjoy listening as well. Remember, you're doing great, and thank you for being you.